Hello. Oh, this is big, loud. My name is Charlotte Hansen. I am here today together with Sebastiaan Dijkman, representing TKF. I should first say that normally I speak very, very fast. I will try to slow down, but it's not one of my big things to do that. So just a few words about myself. I have spent 25 years working within APQP for automotive industry, changing for the last 5 years to wind industry, working as a consultant for APQP4Wind, and now working at TKF. What I've done this year for the last 3 years, I supported TKF building up the APQP manual. I have been leading the implementation across the ongoing 3 projects we have right now in APQP in collaboration with our customer Vattenfall. But before we go into all this funny stuff, good stuff, I just introduce Sebastiaan Dijkman.
Yeah, so my name is Sebastiaan Dijkman. I'm QHSE tender manager at TKF and working for the company now for 8 years. Also as an R&D engineer, and that's the point where we started implementing APQP4Wind. So that's it's a great opportunity to explain to you our journey today, and well, pleasure to meet you all.
Yes, thank you, Sebastiaan. Well, today we want to share how we're turning APQP from a framework agreement into the way of executing projects. In this case, we have done this based on our experience with Nordic 1 and 2, in collaboration with our customer Vattenfall. So let's start with what is actually needed. Okay, that was first praise. Just to say all that. Good. Next page. So why is APQP actually needed? If we look into the industry today, there's a few consistent challenges we are facing. Increasing project complexity, making more stakeholders, more interfaces, and at the same time, limited time to do it all, limited predictability, quality, and approval processes. And what we often see is actually tend to that risks are identified way too late. Which means instead of preventing issues, we are reacting on them. At the same time, the supply chain is very fragmented, and roles and interfaces are not always clearly defined. Quality is often driven by inspection and not planning. So we end up with a reactive way of working instead of planning. So if this is right, what is the right way of, what do we need to change? The key is actually not using all the APQP tools. The key is actually the mindset behind APQP. Traditionally, it's often what we experience is seen as an add-on. Extra documentation, additional workload, applying very late in a project. So whether you actually the value come from, the real value comes from when APQP becomes a part of running and executing a project. And actually applied day one, not waiting for it. It has to be an operating model, an integrated way of working, built into quality planning, front-loading risk, and decision-making. That is a real shift. From adding quality to building a way that we execute things. So if this is all about mindset of APQP, the real question for us is, how do we actually practice that at TKF? And with that in hand, let Sebastiaan tell you a little about how we do it in real life.
Thank you. So in practice, what does APQP mean for us at TKF? So perhaps some of you know that we, as TKF, we are a manufacturer and a designer of the inter-array cable, which is well, perhaps it's a critical component for the wind farm, but perhaps not the most costly, at least not to manufacture and purchase. So what we've experienced is there are a lot of so-called silos that people work in. So we have different project teams and it's all split. And well, we are really improving on making a generic way of working where we also share, for example, lessons learned with each other, how we approach a new project, how do we do that, how do we capture the voice of the customer correctly in our design goals. So instead of being project specific, so having multiple customers that they have all different requirements, and APQP is an opportunity, that's how we saw it, to have one way forward together with all the whole supply chain. So in the past, as a cable company for 95 years, we are making now cables. A lot of processes are done based on experiences. So let's say work instructions, sometimes they can be better. And that's all in the future going to be captured now in something called control plan. That was quite new for us when we started 4 years ago. So currently we see the ITP is a familiar thing. Everybody knows an inspection test plan, but how, as a company, can you add value to an ITP? That's by turning it into a control plan, because you can capture your out of control action plan. So what does an operator in the factory needs to do when something is out of spec? So that's where you capture your first risk mitigation inside your operational control company. So that's, for us, that was really an eye-opener for APQP4Wind. And next to that, we are upgrading our R&D departments by the use of FMEAs and also process engineering, let's say. So the guys that control our operation, they are also using FMEAs now, and that's quite new for us. So that's what you can see as such an old company, the shift towards risk mitigation. That's really nice to be involved in, and also that our customers taking us on their journey by, well, they did do the initiation for us. That's really appreciated, and we saw the opportunity as a supplier to the wind industry. To give a bit more practical idea of how do we do things inside our manufacturing plant. So some of you know that in the wind industry, it's quite common to have inspectors around in a manufacturing facility. We also have them for multiple projects at the same time, so that can be quite having it has quite a capacity load on a quality department also. So the APQP4Wind having a production part approval process, the PPAP, part submission variant, PSW, gave us the opportunity to rearrange some of the parts in the structure. How can you verify and validate your product in order to have a good and deliver a good quality product? So we start by the verification during the engineering design review phase. So R&D did do the verifications, and then you'll get to the point to start to make a prototype. So what we've done, and perhaps some of you know cable manufacturing, is that per assembly step, we made a design verification plan, which ends up in a report, and that is then the internal approval of that assembly step. So a cable, it's not like 1 piece production or 10 piece production, it's in meters, and it's quite costly. So we found this as a cost-effective way to implement APQP. So when the prototype phase is done, we have a completely failed design verification report. No, that's not right. So after every assembly step, we have a report, and that means that we can proceed to the first production run. And that is the point where we also involve the customer with the inspector to do directly checks on site. And at the end of an assembly level, the part submission variant is filled. So again, the ITP comes in. The part submission variant is filled with items from the ITP, let's say dimensional checks, material checks, visual checks. And that is then co-signed first by the inspector, and later on will be sent to the customer for the second approval. And that in the end creates our total part submission variant, PPAP. And that is part of quality assurance in the end. So we have the backbone that is in the prototype with the design verification report. and later on a signed part submission warrant that's done together with the customer. And also that's our cost-effective way how we approach this is that after the customer signed the part submission warrant of an assembly step, we can start full-scale production at that step with intermediate storage, let's say, so we can proceed. So what have we seen over the last 2 years together with our customer is that it really gives a opportunity to have a standard way of working together. So you have the same terminology. You see, you can work on the documents together the right way. So all these different templates, of course, all of them have right things in them, but it's better also for new colleagues that start in our company to have one way of working. It also, and by that it creates transparency, so everybody knows what is coming up. And in the end, it gives a strong foundation for knowledge reuse. So let's say that the lessons learned, so also what you see here, they are again captured in well, the design goals, well, engineering design review this time. But of course, there are also things that it requires to have APQP implemented. So there needs to be an early involvement with the customer and the supply chain. So what we see is sometimes projects that take from, let's say, signing at the tender phase to the end of, let's say, the loadout of a inter-array cable. It takes 3 years. Could be that there's a lot of time, but it's sometimes how we feel it is that the time is not used in the right way. And by APQP, we have the gates, so the stage gates model, that it can be implemented in the time or in the project time span. And that's also where we need the customer for, to have clear definitions on what do the dates mean in a project. And that's also from us as a component supplier towards our sub-suppliers, let's say, suppliers. How does everything in the end come together? That's what we are currently busy working on. And still, we will have lessons learned, but that's also coming up for us for the future. So, Charlotte, go ahead.
Thank you. Good. So where do we actually see the value in making and working with APQP here? What we see is a clear shift with more predictability working with this method. We see shorter approval times or cycle times. We see reduced cost of poor quality working this way, this method. It's not just about the quality tools, it's more about predictable execution, as Sebastiaan just told you. But at the same time, we also see some challenges, which we also try to mitigate or see that we actually have to speak to our customers about these challenges. It's alignment about critical characteristics. One thing is that we think it's a good thing to have these, but we also need the involvement from our customers. This is the interface across all the stakeholders that is causing challenges right now. And overall, it's a transparency and alignment with the whole chain. So the method works. We just need to align about it. Could you chase? Yes. Yeah. So the real question is here for us is actually, how do we scale APQP? Because that's not just about improving any individual projects. It's about creating a scalable way of working within this method. And there's some things that we actually need to take into account. Very few critical things that we need to align with is integration into the existing systems and making sure that this is not an add-on. Clear definition of critical characteristics and alignment across functions and stakeholders, and reducing all extra works and duplications. What it also enables for us is more predictable project execution, a better collaboration with our customers, the value chain, all in all, and its ability to scale a project to grow in size and complexity. So again, from my side, it's not an add-on. Oh, sorry, did I push a button here? it's a scalable way of working within the project. And with that, I'll here in the end say that actually we are here, have a very, very strong alignment with our daily customer Vattenfall, and we'd like to take that a little look from the customer perspective. So actually, we are close to the end of this speech here, but we are so fortunate that our customer is here today, Vattenfall. So instead of just talking about collaboration with the customer, we'd like to give the last minute to our customer to just tell us a little bit what they see this work with us. Jan and Mads, what is yours?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I am the lead project quality manager for the Nordlicht project, and correct, we have a very close relationship, and we've been a very important, maybe even key player in your implementation journey, and we like that very much. It's given us a lot of learnings, and I believe we're not finished learning yet. Well, in general, thank you for that cooperation. I have actually one question that pops up in my mind, and it's actually very much related to a very key topic that has been brought up by, I believe, even the last three speakers this morning. It's risk, and it's the whole topic and concept of risk openness, sharing of risk registers, sharing of transparency with regards to risk. So my question is actually based on my own experience that to a certain extent that collaboration between client and employer as us and contractor supply is actually going in the wrong direction. I actually feel that there is a tendency to reduce our possibility to go in and have a look at the risk registers on down to a certain level, perhaps. Because I believe that this is a little bit of a speech now. I believe that there is a lot of synergies lying there waiting for both of us. If we get a little bit more transparency as an employer into our contractors' risks, I believe you have a lot of transparency. But my question is now, how transparent are you prepared to be, and are there any key benefits, and are there any potential problems in being too transparent with your client on your risks?
Yeah, thank you. I think that till a certain point we are quite transparent. So in terms of APQP terminology, an item like the DFMEA is that we require the customer to review on site because there are intellectual property items inside such a document, same as a PFMEA, process FMEA. Other than that, together with the customer, we are quite open also to see at least the reaction of our customer on such documents, and also how we can improve ourselves and let's say the quality of the content that's inside, and also to check that's done by audits. How do we see it back in practice at a company?